Aloha and mahalo for joining me right here once again at Insane Disappearances right here on my channel. And of course, today I got two good ones for you. There's Double Whammy Friday. Well, it's actually Saturday. Yeah, it's Saturday, so I didn't get a chance to do it yesterday. I was so busy. Well, I did do one yesterday, but anyway, the whole point is today got another good one for you. And I am going to do something a little different. I'm going to try to format and categorize everything without having to read from the book all the time. You got to have time to do all this stuff. I know a serious YouTuber is going to get all their facts together and stuff like that, where you got to say, I think this, I think that. It happens. Not everybody can remember everything. I'm human. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to start off the way I always do. I will give you guys one of my personal experiences with ghosts, and then go right into the story. And I got two stories for you today. One is about a person who was never found, and one is about a person who was found 2 years later. The remains, of course. I also got some information on a young girl named Isabel. Her name is Isabel something. Let's see, that's another one. I said I was going to use that. I was going to talk about that story too. It's a little girl that was found 5 years later in her hometown. Isabel something. Give me 1 second. I keep leaving my phone open. Okay, sorry about that, guys. This is a little story about a little girl. I heard about her yesterday on the news, where she was after like 5 years of being missing, she disappeared from her bedroom, and her remains was found 5 years later. I can't remember exactly where, but I'm about to find out right now. Okay, so I want to start off with these little small stories because I want this to be a nice little hour show here. Her name was Isabel Celis. That's C-E-L-I-S. She was a little 6-year-old girl who disappeared in Arizona, which is her hometown. This was back in 2012. It says right here, a 6-year-old Arizona girl who went missing in 2012 has been found dead. They found her remains some out like it was out there in the southern region of the state. And let me see. But yeah, it was. All I know is that the information is kind of. It's not. I don't want to say sketchy, but it's not a lot of information, but it's enough. But her father found her. Well, he found that she disappeared from her bedroom. It didn't say when, like in the evening or at night, but she was in her bedroom and she hasn't been found since. And then all of a sudden, boom, they found her remains. So it was a pretty tragic moment, but at the same time, it was closure because of what I'm pretty sure he had been searching for her for years, and then now this. It was in a remote area of Pima County of Arizona. Okay, let's see here. In a nutshell, because I didn't get a chance to get the information down for this, so I'm gonna try and read it from here. Okay, the body of Isabel Celis, the 6-year-old Tucson, Arizona girl who went missing from her bedroom in 2012, has been found in a remote area nearly 5 years after she vanished. Authorities announced Friday. Tucson Police Chief Chris Magnus said investigators found human remains in a remote area of Pima County in the southern region of the state. Portions of the remains were sent to a lab in Virginia that confirmed they belonged to Celis. Although this confirmation may be some degree of closure, of course, it also ends the hope of bringing Isabel home safely to her family. Magnus told reporters at a press conference, "The death of any child is a loss to the family and to our entire community." Magnus said police were not in the area where Celis's body was found by happenstance, but declined to give details about what led them to what led them there, or if there were any suspects in her death. The Tucson Police Department will continue to actively pursue those responsible for any kind of involvement in Isabel's death and disappearance. Magnus said, "This is a very important step in the case." Okay, now this right here is a picture of little Isabella at the age of 6. A cute little thing. And I feel for the father and the rest of the family on the fact that they did find her, but they found her remains. And let me see. It says here, any alley path behind the street where Celis went missing from her home. An alley path behind the street where Celis went missing from her home on April 22nd, 2012. Let's see if I can. Hold on. Okay, here we go. This is a better picture. All right, this is the alley where she disappeared at. So obviously, they said that she disappeared from her bedroom. So to say that this is the alley where she disappeared, I don't know why they're saying that. If the father said that she disappeared from her bedroom, obviously she was taken from her bedroom. The question is how? If he was home the whole time, how is it that he did not hear her screaming or hear a noise of someone coming in through the window, maybe to take her, and how they was able to actually get away without leaving any kind of evidence of her being taken? Like maybe something got knocked over, or something was on the floor that should have been sitting on a counter, or maybe a desk in her bedroom. I don't know. There isn't any information about what happened as far as the evidence. What did they find in her bedroom? What was out of place? What was knocked on the floor? What was on the floor that should have been on a counter that he actually saw on her desk or on a counter prior to her disappearing? There's all sorts of little small things that you got to look at. What did you hear before she disappeared? Did you hear anything at all? Did you hear her like a tiny little scream or a muffled scream? Did you hear any kind of commotion in the bedroom, like the sound of a window opening up? Maybe, I don't know. It said it was in 2012 in April, so it was the spring of the year. So it's kind of odd how they found her 5 years later on, around the springtime, but it wasn't around the same area. Around the same month. She disappeared in April, and they found her yesterday. And this is, it's, before April 1st. So, yeah, it's weird. But anyway, it goes on to say in a statement to KGUN, which is KGUN, Celis family thanked the community for its support. "We want to thank the community for the support they have continued to show for Issa over the years, and for refusing to give up hope. Now is our time to mourn. We ask for our privacy during this time so that we can do that," the family said. Magnus asked that anyone with information on Celis' disappearance and death contact police or submit an anonymous tip. And that was pretty much it on that. Yeah, it was very, very sad. This is my first time actually hearing about it. I just happened to see. It's actually, as a matter of fact, it came over the news last night while I was at work, and I just I looked it up and tried to, because I think I missed the spelling of her name, so it took me a while to actually get the information that I needed to get. Because there's plenty of ways to spell Celis. So I'm thinking it was spelled with an S or S-A. And Isabella, I was thinking it was spelled with an I-Z instead of an I-S. So it took a while for me to actually get the correct spelling. And I did something to actually find out the actual name. I think I forgot exactly what I put, but that helped me get to the story that I need to get to. So there it is, folks. Another story about a young girl who went missing and was found dead. I hate to even think about any other child that may turn up missing mysteriously and is gone for a large amount of time, and then they find the remains somewhere that is miles away from where they were last seen, because they said that they found her in a remote area, which was probably in a kind of like maybe a grassy field. Maybe there was no concrete information on where she was found. They just said that they found her in the southern region of the state. So it might have been in a large field like area where there was a lot of grass, and they found her remains, in tall grass maybe, she was probably first found by maybe a passerby, maybe someone that was hiking in the area or camping, maybe, I don't know. But yeah, it's very unsettling, and like I said, I have a little girl too. She's not little, she's about to be 15 in the next couple of days. I mean 16, I'm sorry, about to be 16 in the next couple of days. So I still think the same way any other parent would when it comes to their child. I wouldn't want anything bad to happen to her, because I would have to look up any mysterious disappearances in Dallas just to even fathom if that could even happen to her. So anyway, okay, today I'm going to talk about a ghostly experience that I had, which was right here in my very own home. This was probably at the beginning of the second year of me being in my house. I was going to bed. It was early in the morning because I did overtime. I think I got home around like maybe, I don't know, it was probably a weekend, so I probably got home like around 7:45, 8 o'clock. Because I got off at 7. Yeah. Well, okay, not 7:45, probably like 7:15, 7:20, because it takes me at least about a good 15-20 minutes to get to the house. I went to bed, and somebody had stayed overnight, and it was my homeboy. He was having problems with his girlfriend, so he stayed over, and I told him he could use the guest bathroom, to take a shower. And he was on the phone talking to his girlfriend, and they were arguing over the phone, or I don't want to say arguing, but they were talking abruptly, back and forth. He was in the shower, or in the bathroom, running the shower, so I could still hear him talking. Then all of a sudden, I'm in the bed, and I heard this voice. It sounded like it was coming from directly outside my doorway. Because if anyone has a very keen sense of hearing, you can tell if someone is talking from behind a door or talking right outside your door. And I don't mean behind the door of your bedroom. I mean behind the door of the bathroom that's adjacent to your bedroom, in the hallway. That voice sounded it was coming from directly outside my door, behind the wall. And it was a muffled voice of a man. And for some reason, I got the instinct vision or thought that it was a man in a suit. I don't know why, but for some reason I could see it was a Caucasian man in a suit. And what I heard was this, something like that. It was a muffled tone of voice, and it did sound like a grown man, and it was Caucasian, but I couldn't understand what he was trying to say. I mean, I listened really hard, trying to be like, what the heck? Because I heard it twice. The second time I heard it, I was like, I could hear whatever he was saying on top of my friend that was in the bathroom. And I was like, and I actually said, well, hey, what'd you say, man? And he didn't answer. I was like, okay. And I think I probably saw him at one point when he was coming out of the bathroom. And I said, did you just say something? He was like, no. He went back in the bathroom, and he was still talking to that person, whoever it was. And I heard it again. And it was the same type of voice, same man. And the voice was like muffled, like as if he had his hand over his mouth. And it was like, it was like you could almost hear the syllables and what he was trying to say, but you couldn't understand it. It was just very muffled. And that right there was a crazy moment, because I was like, I literally heard in a disembodied voice for the first time in years since I was like 15. Because the first time I told you, it was a situation I had, an experience I had back in New Jersey, and that was when I told you I heard those voices that sounded like they were dissipating in the distance, like as if they were moving away from me as they were talking, and it was the same man's voice, and I heard a loud scream and all this stuff. But that's, like I said, I already talked about that. But anyway, yeah, that was a very crazy moment for me, and I was like, had my eyes closed, and all of a sudden that voice just woke me up, and I'm thinking he was trying to say something to me, but he wasn't even outside. He was still in the bathroom with the door closed, and I actually heard him talking from behind the door. And so I was like, okay, so if that was him, then who the heck was that, talking? And the fact that I heard it twice, it was like whoever it was trying to make himself known, man. Like make himself known. And like I said, I got the distinct notion that it was a man in a suit for some reason. I don't know why, like a black and white suit. It's weird, but yeah, that was my experience. Now on to the stories itself. Today I'm going to be talking about Emerson Dobrowskay instead of Dobrowski. I thought maybe it was a typo because most of the time when you see the word Dobrowski, it's spelled Dobrowski or SKI, which is how they normally spell it. But this is spelled with an AY. So, but anyway, he went missing on 10/28/1988 in the PM at the University of British Columbia. Now, it is unsaid on when this young man disappeared. They just know that he disappeared in the PM hours. Now, he was 21 years old when he first disappeared. Now, David Paulides has continuously written about people with a high intellect that disappeared, or that disappear. Now, they range from physicians to physicists, and also a various number of college students that you have also heard me talk about in a lot of the stories that I read about in my, on my channel. Okay, now Emerson Dobrowskay promoted high intellect since he was at a very early age. Now, he had a lot of interest at the time, and even before he disappeared. One of them was astronomy. Just like me, I love astronomy because I'm an amateur astronomer, and I told you about my high-powered telescope that I have sitting over here in the corner by my door leading out to the deck. He also had an interest in meteorology and physics. And, when you're dealing with people that like that kind of stuff, they got a very high intellect because they can soak in all of that information like a sponge, and they use it to their advantage. Now, I have a interest in a lot of things as well, other than just astronomy. I have an interest in the thought of physics. Not so much the education of physics. I know that there's a lot more out there that needs to be explained. I know there's a lot of things that physics can explain, and there's a lot of things out there that physics can explain, like how certain things happen in space that goes beyond the realm of physics. The things that happen in space actually breaks the laws of physics. I've heard a lot about that. The way things form out there, the way things move around, or the way things happen in space. It just breaks literally breaks the laws of physics. So I think what it is, once you get outside the realm of possibility that surrounds our planet and our solar system, anything beyond that, there is no laws of physics. It's just stuff that happens out there. Because we operate on the laws of physics. That's the reason why we have scientists. They explain everything that happens, just like how the Earth was formed and how the galaxy alone was formed, or even our solar system. But like I said, once you step outside that realm of physics and possibility and reality, anything can happen beyond that. So when you hear of these things that happen in space, and you can't explain how that's even possible, like I said, it's like, how can I put this? It's like moving outside of time itself, because they always say that once you move away from the Earth is still spinning. If you move away from the Earth at the speed of light, okay, the Earth is still going. So if you're moving away from time itself and you come back after leaving the Earth at a high rate of speed, at the speed of light, and you come back, 500 years may have gone by. So everybody that you know and love is either already dead, or they're grown and they have kids of their own, and their ancestors, well, not ancestors, but their siblings and their children's children are living in the place of them when they were still alive. So you could still look the way you did 500 years ago, and yet all that time has passed. So like I said, you're moving outside of the realm of reality and time itself. Out there in space, in deep space, there is no time. And technically here there is no time. We just labeled it with numbers. Okay? There is really no such thing as time. How can I explain it? I don't know. There's a lot of theories in that area, like Michio Kaku himself could probably explain. But until I can get that information, you probably won't hear it from me. But anyway. Okay. Let me see. Oh, yeah. Now, while he was in high school at Saskatoon, I kept thinking it was Saskatchewan, but it said Saskatoon. He studied astronomy. I wish I could have done that, but never did. Like I said, he studied astronomy at the university. Now, he reached such a level in his knowledge of the field itself that when he turned 19, he was allowed to actually teach at the university. And that's a very, very good thing to even happen at the age of 19, where you was considered a professor at that point. Because, when you go to college, you're considered a professor, not so much a teacher. Okay, so to actually know that he actually got that far in his education where he could actually teach at a very young age, at a teenage level, that's like talking about Doogie Howser being a doctor at the age of 15 and is actually operating on people, and saving their lives. He's like basically the Doogie Howser of astronomy. So, yeah, that's a pretty amazing feat right there. Okay, let's see. He went on and did other wonderful things at the University of British Columbia. Now, on October 29th, 1998, Emerson and students at the university had finished taking finals. Now, feeling relieved that the finals were over, he left the dorm to go to a place called the Pit Brew Pub with friends. Now, they drank beer, they hung out, and had a lot of fun, just like any other teenager would, or any other college kid would, when they finished finals. I know I was like that. I didn't go out and drink, but I was just glad that finals were over, But of course, I was in high school at the time. But they called them SATs. Whew, that was a grueling moment for me. So, but yeah, let me see. Oh yeah, okay. Now, afterwards, they all left together, but after they got outside, they parted ways. Now, this was the last time any of them saw or had contact with this young man. So it's weird. The fact that they all went their separate ways. And see, this is a well-known fact in a lot of these cases. When they leave the place, that person that disappears for some reason wants to go by themselves. They want to walk home. Like the last person I talked about, he went 5 miles to get to his home, but somewhere between point A and point B, he veered off and ended up in a river somewhere, which doesn't make any sense to me. Just like with this here, they all went their separate ways. So this one isn't so much like the other stories, but at the same time, it kind of is, because they parted and he was away from that group itself. Like I always say, if you're in a group, stay in a group. Don't separate from them. But they all wanted to separate. It wasn't just him saying he wanted to go somewhere by himself. And furthermore, he walked, I believe. Yeah, he walked. So that right there is another crazy part of this whole case. Okay, now the police searched Emerson's dorm room and found all of his clothing and personal items. They also found a total amount of $2,000 in cash and checks that had not been cashed. Now, everything seemed to be normal at the time, because it's just like, everything seemed the way it should be for any other college kid, Okay, now Vancouver and the UBS, which is University of British Columbia police, searched the entire region around the dorms and the pub itself. They found they had copters in the air and dogs on the ground. Nothing was found, and neither was Emerson. He was never found at that point, so he just basically vanished off the face of the earth. Now, what could he have encountered when he parted ways with his friends? Okay, nobody knew what time he disappeared. Nobody knew anything about it because they all separated and went their separate ways to wherever it was they were going to go. They probably going to go to another bar, or probably was going to go home. Maybe he'll go visit another friend, or maybe a girlfriend, and go get some booty. You don't know. But the fact that he separated from the group and nobody even knew where he was even going. So that part is up in the air. So wherever he went to, somewhere between point A and point B, he disappeared. Literally, it's not the fact that he veered off and went towards the water and drowned. He just vanished without a trace. Okay, they never found anything to indicate that he was going in any of these areas. They don't even know where he went. They just know they parted their separate ways. That's all they knew. So whatever happened to him, nobody knows. And that's the biggest question in that story. And that's the part that really gets me, and it makes me kind of it weirds me out, because the fact that he was at a bar, which is a big thing with all these cases. They drunk and everything. They never said that he was drunk. They couldn't say he was drunk because they never found his body. But it's just the fact that everybody, when they left the club, they went like this. They separated and went in all directions. Were they in a car? I don't know. I just know that they parted their separate ways. He went his own way, they went their way, and poof, that was it. That's the last time anybody's even seen him alive. He didn't contact nobody or nothing. And even if he did, that phone call will probably last no more than a second, because that's what happens with a lot of these cases when people have phones. If they try to call someone, they hear this, "Oh my gosh, where are you?" or "I need some help," and then the call goes dead. And then after that, nothing. And then when they try to ping the signal or where the phone call was coming from, they go into the area, nothing. They don't even find the phone. And if they do find the phone, it's smashed into a million pieces. So, but in his case, Emerson, that part is it gets to me, because you just don't know. You come up with all these facts, all these theories of what could have happened to him. Was he abducted by aliens? I don't know. Did he walk into oblivion? Don't know that either. Did he walk into like a vortex bubble where he ended up in another dimension that looked just like the one he came from, but there was no people there? Or if he did end up in another dimension, it was just like the place where he came from, but he didn't know anybody there. Who knows? Maybe everybody that he did know had different names and different lives. That's always a thought of what could happen to these people. They end up in an area, or they end up on another world, parallel Earth, or another dimension, or another reality that is somewhat similar to where you are. Maybe where he ended up at was in another state, maybe, or in a state he's never even heard of. You never know. It could be anything. And the fact that you don't really know, but you sit there and come up with theories from here to Timbuktu, and none of them add up to what could have happened to him, because it's just a thought. It's just a theory. The proof is never put out there as far as what happened to that person. And that's the part that scares me the most, when these people just vanish without a trace and are never found. You sit there and you wonder what happened to that person. Are they still alive? Are they somewhere living but can't come back home, so they have to start a whole new life all over again, get married, have a couple of kids? And the fact that if they did, here's the part that gets me. You can't get back home. You have no way of getting back. And because I think about sliders and the theory of wormholes, which was said by Maximilian Arturo and what was his name? Quinn Mallory. Think of these dimensional portals or wormholes as a roulette wheel. Okay, you have all these different slots. Now you take a little ball and drop it, and it starts spinning around, not knowing where it's going to end up. Okay, so these portals or wormholes end up in an infinite number of slots. Never know when the ball is going to come up. Okay, so even if he was to go through a wormhole, there's no guarantee that he end up right back where he started from or where he came from. He could end up in another world somewhere. Because let's just say you're in a tunnel, right? And then they have these infinite number of portals that lead off into these different directions. You never know where you're going to end up at. You may go to your left, to your right, or you may even go straight. You may end up in another world somewhere, another reality, another planet. That planet may not even have any air, or the atmosphere is probably not comparable to your own breathing. So your lungs will have to get used to it. That's why I loved that show. Sliders was probably one of the best shows I ever seen, because all the theories of parallel Earths, wormholes, anything dealing with okay, there was this one episode where they went. It was all set in San Francisco, because that's how everything was set up when he went to these different wormholes. He didn't go. It was arranged that he had to travel, and it was always between his basement and the basement of another criminality on a parallel Earth. Okay, so he ended up in this area where it looked like 1980, but it was still around the year 2000. But he said that the Earth rotated a lot slower, so it seems like the evolution of time slowed down. Time itself in the years still went by. So like, let's just say where you came from, it was 2000. Okay, now you went to this other Earth, this other parallel Earth, where it was still 2000, but evolution was still very slow. Okay, it appeared to them to be 1985, but it was actually the year 2000. So in the year 2000, where you come from, you got all these different types of technology and the way people wore their clothes. But on that parallel Earth, it was the year 2000, but everybody was still driving 1980 cars and wore those suits where the jacket came over the hips, and you wore like those MC Hammer pants and patent leather shoes and all that stuff. So to you it may look like it's 1985, but it really wasn't. So it's weird. But anyway, okay, but yeah, that's the thing about going to these places and not knowing what's going to happen next. So when you realize that you landed on another parallel Earth and the door closed, if they don't have a technology where you can go back to where you came from, then you pretty much stuck. And even if they did, there's no guarantee that you're going to end up back on your parallel Earth. So the fact that these people walk into this dimensional portal and they don't see it, and they once they go through it, that's it. Your life is pretty much over at that point, as far as the life that you led on this planet, on this Earth. So when you get there, you have to start over, all over again. You land this way, you have to go ahead on and just say, well, since I'm going to be here for a while, I'm going to have to get a job. Perfect example. Back to the Future Part 3, the Western portion of it, where Emmett Brown got shot back in time in the cowboy days. So when he got there, he knew he was going to be there for a while. The circus probably got burned out, and so he had to start a whole new life. And he had been living there for a couple of years, I think maybe 3 years or so. And he became a locksmith. He developed his own life there. He was able to basically live his life there. And the way he did it was he wrote him a letter. And he specifically told whoever was to deliver it to not deliver it until a certain date, in a certain time, in a certain place. So he said that, by my calculations, you should receive this letter directly after you saw the DeLorean disappear in midair. So that was a pretty, precise moment. So that's why I love that movie too. Any movie dealing with time travel or parallel Earths, I love. But just as long as the plot and the information given in the movie and how they went about to make the movie itself, as long as it's credible and the theories are as exact as they should be, as far as reality goes and as far as theories go, it would be a great movie. Just like I said, Sliders was a very good show. It ran for about maybe 5 years, maybe or maybe a little after. But the way the show ended pissed me off, because it was like one of those endings where life just went on. Because the very ending of the show, they finally found a way to get rid of the Chromax. It was some sort of like a bloodborne pathogen, or that attacks them and kills them, or something like that. And a seer on a parallel Earth that he was on said that the minute he steps out of that wormhole, they're gonna kill him, because they had a way of tracking wormholes, so they knew where it was coming from and who was coming through it. So they said they was right there waiting for him with phaser guns or whatever, and he was gonna be killed the minute he got there. He went through the wormhole anyway because he had to go back to his parallel Earth to save his Earth, which is where he came from. But you don't know what happened after that, because that's how the show ended. It ended by him going through that wormhole and it closing. Everybody was all upset, calling out his name, saying, he was all crying and stuff. And he said, "What are we gonna do now?" And that was it. The show ended. It never came back on. So I was like, oh, I wanted it to continue, or somebody was to pick it back up and pick up where it left off, or whatever the case may be, or maybe it'd be some new travelers who did the same thing Quinn Mallory did, because the way Quinn Mallory left the show was weird, and how I knew he left the show. There was a scene where it was him and his brother that he found, who was his actual brother. They were facing away from the camera, so you could never see their face. So obviously, they both left the show. Now before that episode, when you see them shooting their gun off, but they had their back to the camera. What happened was, before that episode aired, they was going through a wormhole, and there was a lightning strike, or a bright flash of light, and they saw Colin, his brother, get split off into a couple of hundred Collins, and they saw Quinn literally just like disappear, inside the wormhole. So when they saw Colin, his body had just like somehow, some way, that wormhole split him up into like 100 other Collins, and they all disappeared in the wormhole. And what happened with Quinn Mallory, I think he merged with another guy that was traveling through the wormhole as well. And they tried to separate them from each other, but they couldn't do it. So basically, the more time he spent merged with this other Quinn Mallory, the more the new Quinn Mallory would take over. So it was weird. It was very weird, but I loved that show. Oh, I love that show. But anyway, on to the next story. This one is about Matthew Huszar, or Huszar. It's spelled Huszar. Okay, now he went missing on December 16th, 2011 in the PM hours. This was in Vancouver, British Columbia. He was 25 years old when he disappeared. Now, Matthew was an outdoorsman. He studied biology as well at the University of British Columbia. Now he also graduated with honors. He was very smart, very smart. He enjoyed the oceanside atmosphere of Vancouver, which is one of his big things. Now during the evening of December 16, 2011, he was at the Lamplighter pub with co-workers on 92 Water Street in the Gaslight district of North Vancouver. That area was called Gastown. He was there for a holiday celebration. Now, when interviewed, they told investigators that he had been drinking, but he wasn't intoxicated. So he probably only had maybe, I'd say, 2 beers at the most. Because if I drank maybe 2 beers, I'm feeling right, but I'm not feeling tipsy or intoxicated. So you're loose basically at that point. You're not tipsy, you just loose to where anything can happen. You start dancing around, you start feeling good about yourself and confident. You go grab a girl and dance with her on the dance floor and everything. A lot of times women like that. When you go to a club, you just come up to them, just start dancing. You grab them by the hand, you start dancing. Hopefully they're not with their boyfriend though, so they might just be out there on the dance floor. He's over there getting some drinks, and he come back and you dance with some woman, and she didn't even say that she had a boyfriend. I experienced that, and it's not very pretty. Yeah, it was no fight, but I'm just saying it was kind of awkward at the moment. But anyway, okay, so like I said, he wasn't intoxicated. Now the group left at some point, and just like the others, Matthew went his own way. Now, obviously, it didn't say that they walked to the place, or they didn't say they drove to the place. They just said when they left, they parted their separate ways, and he went his own way. Well, no, they all went together. He separated from the group and went his own way. Okay, it was the last time anyone saw him alive at that point. Now, he was reported missing when he failed to meet with his mom on Vancouver Island the next day. He also missed seeing his girlfriend as well. Now, he was the type of person that always kept in touch with his family, and his, whether he was, by him being a brother and a son and a boyfriend, he kept in touch with everyone that he loved. Okay. Oh, and another thing, his girlfriend, she traveled all the way to Vancouver from the U.S. to see him. So they obviously had a long distance relationship, and they loved each other enough to actually continue that relationship, even though she lived in the States, which is very, very good. I love that. Not too many people like long distance relationships, but if you love each other enough and you trust each other to know that you're not gonna cheat, unless you have a open, close relationship to where you here, she's there, y'all can date or whatever, and if you have sex, fine, but just know that we still are a couple. That doesn't make any sense, I know, but I'm just tossing this straw here. Okay, now the Vancouver police searched all known areas around Gastown for Matt. They used bloodhounds, searchers, planes, and copters. And of course, they found nothing whatsoever. Now, there was no sign of foul play when they, was searching the areas trying to find him. Now, after a nonstop search for about 2 years of them searching for him, they found his remains 2 years later on the south side city portion of the harbor. Now, the north side of where he was found and the south side where he was found is like directly across or perpendicular to the harbor itself. The harbor was like somewhere in the center. Okay, now his body was discovered on the south side, but he was last seen on the north side where he disappeared at, which is weird and it makes no sense, but that's where they found him. They found him on the south side, near the harbor. So, okay, now the coroner, whose name was Barb McLintock, she said that he died shortly after the Gastown pub. Now it was somewhere between that point and when he was found on the south side of the harbor. Okay, now it was still unknown to unknown to her how and why he reached the marina and in the opposite direction of his home. Now, the experts would say that if a body had been in the water for at least 2 years, you wouldn't be able to tell how long the person has been in the water. Now, so the findings of him being found dead is a big stretch. Now, see that's another thing. We're talking about a man who was with friends at a pub. They drinking, they having fun. They all go together to some other place, and he parted with them to go wherever. It was never said where he was going. He just parted from the group and went his own way. He could have been going home. He could have been going back to where he was to meet up with his mom and his girlfriend. But somewhere between that point and when he was supposed to meet up with her the next day, he disappeared. Now, somehow he was picked up, like the theory and analogy that David Paulides' son Ben Paulides said about the whole crane thing inside that little big box with the teddy bears and the stuffed animals would be in. It's almost like he was picked up, carried to a certain location, was stationary there for a certain amount of time, which in his case 2 years, and then he got dropped in an area that was south of where he was last seen. And this just where he was. They found his remains 2 years later in that spot, which is south of the harbor. And that part is the biggest mystery, because how is it that you walk away from the group and then all of a sudden, poof, you disappear, and then wherever you were kept there for 2 years straight, and then you ended up in the water after that. Now, if you're in the water and you won't find it till 2 years later, they're saying that, okay, that means he was in the water for 2 years. What body is going to be in the water for 2 years and not be seen for 2 years straight? I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people on that water as well, with boats and stuff like that. So now the theory is that if he was in the water for 2 years straight, that would mean that he was in the water for 2 summers, and he stayed underwater for that 2 year period, and then all of a sudden you just rise to the top. That makes no sense whatsoever, because you got to go through lividity, you got to go through rigor mortis, all that stuff, but all underwater. And that right there is a crazy theory, because first of all, if you're in the water that long, most of the time, if you're gone for a certain amount of time and then you end up in the water, it shows that you've been in the water for like 3 days, but you were gone for 2 weeks. So where were you at for the last 7 to 10 days? But in his case, he was missing for 2 years straight, and they found him on the other side of that harbor 2 years after. So were you in the water for 2 years? That's a big I have no idea. That's a big I have no idea, because if you're in the water for 2 years straight, somebody would have seen you. You would have been bobbing like a barber, if not floating face down in the water. Now, see, with most college kids, they are found face down in the water. But this one, they just said that he was found in the water. They didn't say he was face down. They didn't say he was, half clothed. They just said he was found near the harbor, but on the south side. So he wasn't in the water, actually. It said it. Well, wait a minute. Okay. It said that he was 2 years later. They found his body on the south side of the city, in the near the harbor. It didn't say in the harbor. It just said, on the south side of the harbor. So he was found near a body of water, or near the harbor. So, but they said that he was in the water for 2 years, so he was actually in the water. It's kind of weird. They said he was found on the south side of the harbor, but in the harbor itself for 2 years. So I don't know. That's, like I said, I would have to be there to even see this, But if the study showed that he was in the water for 2 years, or they said he was in the water for 2 years, that makes no sense, because why would he be in the water for 2 years and not be seen? It's just like a situation with deer that I find dead on the side of the road. There was one deer that was dead on the side of the road near my job. I called the police, because the police is connected with the animal recovery service, and I called them, and I told them, I told them where the deer was, and they never showed up. I literally watched this deer deteriorate from a full-blown dead carcass to nothing. After a while, all I saw was bones, and then after a while, I didn't see the bones anymore. So that deer had been there for 2 years straight. So it is possible for a person to be in an area for 2 years, but you literally see it deteriorate down to nothing but bone, and then the bones alone disappeared. Because someone told me that if vultures are in the area, they will eat at the body until there's nothing left, including the bone. I never heard of vultures eating bone, because I know they eat anything that's dead, but I never known them eating the bones itself. I think I have seen vultures in the area, and I think I did, and I think I didn't. I'm not sure, because they may have been around the carcass when I wasn't there, So, but like I said, I literally watched that animal just deteriorate and decompose to nothing but bone. The bones fell, and they layered on top of each other in the grass in that same spot. And then after a while, I didn't see the bones anymore, because they too disappeared. They deteriorated. So it's weird, So it does happen. But in a body of water, you wouldn't be able to tell how long the body had been in the water if it had been in the water for 2 years, because I guess all of the evidence is washed away at that point. I don't know. I guess that over time it gets pretty hard to even tell how long the body's been in the water, even if it was in the water for 2 years. Like I said, that I'm not an expert in that area. I'm just going by what was said in the book. So, but yeah, it's very, very weird. Very, very weird. Nice. Okay. Now, also, as far as the young teenagers that are being found, that are being found after being gone since January, there has been no other information on that. For all I know is about the 2 young women that actually made a statement of why they ran away. The one who said that the living conditions at the group home was terrible, rats and roaches and just very unsanitary. And she lived with her father for a short period of time. Now here's the crazy part. First of all, there was a total of 500 young teenage females that disappeared between January and March. 500, but they only found several of them. Only 2 came forward as far as why they disappeared. Now, is it a fact that all 500 children were runaways? That seems like a very large, unstatable number. That doesn't sound right to me, how 500 children, teenage young girls, could all be runaways all at the same time in one big clump for the whole 3 months. It doesn't sound like a very, very reasonable statistic. So what happened to them? Could it be sex trafficking? Could it be organ harvesting? I don't know. They could be selling these girls as sex partners for high bidders. I don't know. It's weird to even think about. I don't even want to think about, because I have a 16-year-old. I don't even want to think about her being in that situation, because I will probably go to jail if I find that out. And I don't want that to happen to my little girl. So, it's just so much to even think about as to why they disappeared and how they disappeared, and how is it that 500 young girls disappeared within a 3-month time period around the same date. Because if you look at the statistics on the person, how long, when they disappeared, and the date and the month, they all disappeared. Some of them disappeared on the same date, the 17th, the 18th. Some of them on the 21st. It's weird, So, but yeah, that's my time on those stories. As usual, I will post more, in the coming days. My next video will be on a Monday. So, as usual, stay tuned and keep those subscriptions coming. Tell your friends and your family about me. As you can see, I'm promoting my channel as much as I possibly can. I want to get some more t-shirts where I have my information on the back of my shirt, stating what YouTube channel to go to and all this stuff. Just whatever I can. Just saying Insane Disappearances on the front is one way to do it, but I also want to make sure everybody knows it's a YouTube channel. So, I'll have my information on there. And once again, anybody that may want a t-shirt, just go to PayPal, type in my email address on the PayPal page, and submit your $20 to that channel. To that app, and when I receive it, email me your address at the same time, and I will send it to you. So, without further ado, I gotta go. I don't have to be to work until 6:30, but I still got plenty of time to chill and watch TV and eat, because I'm hungry. So, always imparting. Aloha, mahalo, and ahuiho. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I enjoyed making it. So, I'll see you guys on the next episode. Peace.